more phones than there are people. Second thing or factor is that phones, unlike computers, have been much more successful in locking down and disposing of those artifacts. So when you delete something on a phone, it is much harder typically to bring it back from the dead, to resurrect that data using forensics than a comparable volume of data on a personal computer. And one of the reasons for that is that phone data on the leading phone operating systems is routinely encrypted.
Right.
And phones universally use solid-state media for storage, whereas most computers are still using electromagnetic or spinning hard drives for mass storage. Those two media have very different accessibility when it comes to computer forensics. So to make a long story short, computer forensics still works and works pretty well in the realm of the desktop computer and the laptop computer. Computer forensics has been largely eliminated in certain respects with regard to the phone.
That's right.
And that's why when you had a case like San Bernardino, or you had a case like the Los Angeles shooter recently, the FBI was so hamstrung by their ability to get information out of the phone using forensic techniques. That stuff is largely encrypted as it lies, and those keys in turn are encrypted, and it's just really, really hard to do forensics on a phone. So, if we aren't turning to forensics because A, we don't need to do a deep dive for the most part in e-discovery, and B, those deep dives are very, very hard, and collecting for those deep dives typically requires rooting or jailbreaking the phone.
That's right.
Something that you generally don't want to do, and creates issues. And then the final factor is the most crucial issue, and that's, can you separate the user from the phone?
Right.
I mean, the fact of the matter is most of us will not give up our phone for any significant period of time. We might allow somebody...
It's like cutting off an arm.
Really, it's like, would you like to borrow one of my younger children instead of my phone? Collateral-wise, I think you would probably be willing to do that. It's seriously, because there are all kinds of factors. One of them is that I literally could not call my children without my phone.
Correct.
I do not know their numbers. And their mobile numbers are in my phone.
Yeah.
And that's true of most people. I would have enormous difficulty finding most of the people I know connected with them without my phone.
Right.
And there is no other way to contact me. I've completely eliminated the landline. My only contact is my phone.
Right.
So if I am in business, I'm a salesperson, what have you, I'm a field representative, to deprive me of my phone is to deprive me of my family and my livelihood. So it's not going to happen. In some financial institutions, and I will remain nameless, when we sought to collect phones, 3 out of 10 were wiped when they were turned in.
Were they really?
Now, nobody said, I wiped my phone for you. They said, I tried to enter my password, which I'd forgotten, and it went back to factory settings. 3 out of 10. That's extraordinary.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. That's the lengths that people will go to. But on the other hand, if you don't have to dispossess them of their phone, if you can allow them to remain the custodian of the data being preserved, all of that tension pretty much goes away. And so, from the standpoint of cost, it costs essentially nothing for people to use the standard backup mechanisms for these devices, especially for the iOS, the iPhone. So cost is not really an issue. Scalability is not really an issue, because these tools are available without cost anywhere for any platform. If you want iTunes for Windows, you've got it. You want iTunes for Apple, you've certainly got it. It comes on the machine, for heaven's sakes. And speed is not an issue, because a backup using these tools typically can be accomplished in under an hour, certainly.
Correct.
And as long as you don't disconnect the phone from the cable, you can continue to use it for any purpose, make and receive calls, etc. So to me, this becomes a no-brainer. You have scalability. Everyone can do it quickly and cheaply. You have availability of software. You have high security. You have no support burden. I don't have to buy a Celebrite and pay thousands of dollars every year and update and upgrade with every change in the operating systems.
Right.
That compatibility, that latest, always up-to-date compatibility, is handled by the publisher of the phone software. It's
right.
handled by Apple. It's handled by Samsung. It's
Yep.
Google, etc.
Yep.
So where then is the burden? Where then are the factors for proportionality? The issue that becomes important is one of processing the data. We've got it. How do we divide up what's relevant and business related, if it's a business case, from that which is personal and private and confidential, medical communications with spouses, maybe they're using a confessional app, dial a priest or whatever it might be. I don't know, but I know that is a hard question. But we can't even begin to address that question if we don't preserve the contents, and if we don't preserve it in a way that's quick and scalable and cheap. And so that's what I've tried to put out there is, here's not the way, here's a way to do it. Here and one final point, which I think is crucial, is the idea of custodial directed preservation. We don't want the foxes guarding the hen house. But the beauty of this is that, if they're doing it themselves and they are acting as custodian of the data, and the methodology I put out there provides for that, and so that they don't feel compelled at that moment to destroy data, to destroy information. B, the methods I've outlined, the methods used by the phone companies, don't really allow them to be selective in what's backed up. It's a monolithic backup.
That's right.
And as a consequence, they don't really have that way to go in and prevent certain information from being collected in the same way that a targeted collection would allow people to game the system, or if you entrusted people to gather their own information, they almost invariably will be selective about how they move certain information, because as they look at something and they say, ooh, that joke I sent around, I thought it was funny at the time, but now after Me Too, I don't think I want that to be seen. You've eliminated that. They don't have that ready ability to prune the data. And I think that's good. And I think that ultimately puts everyone in a better position. If it's already locked in a box, if it's already zipped in a collection of a particular date with a particular size, and you don't have the tools or methodology to go in and perform surgery on that collection, it's a much harder decision for someone to say, I know I confirmed for counsel 6 months ago that I'd done this, and I gave them the hash value, or I gave them the metadata values of the file, the zip file that was created. Now I'm going to make that disappear completely. But what they're not going to do is surgically reinvent the past. They won't have the ability to do that, and I think that's a net positive. Now you put people in the bind of saying, I'm going to destroy evidence in a very deliberate fashion, in a way that it will be readily apparent that it was done with the intent to deprive people of information in discovery, and that makes it less and less likely to happen. It means that the rules like 37E of the federal rules can do the job that they should be doing to guard against spoliation, instead of doing the job that they do now, which is making it much easier for those who destroy evidence to evade responsibility and
so it's
face
not binary,
consequences.
correct? Right. And because you have some apps on your phone you don't want somebody knowing about,
that is so personally, embarrassing to yourself that you would put yourself in this jeopardy
Sure.
to avoid it.
It's an all or nothing backup.
A binary choice, it's 1 or 0.
Right. And that all or nothing is something you're willing to do because they don't take your phone away, so you're not feeling threatened in the same way.